Hi guys, upon request I'm going to supply some commentary on this process. So I took a cube and subdivided it 3 times. I found that subdividing it 3 times gives me a lot more room to play with. I'm able to add some detail, although the one downside with that is that I end up having far too many polys towards the end and it ends up pinching in some places. But because this type of process is meant for initial rough drafts, it's not too much of a big deal. With this project and more of the recent ones, I paid careful attention to further simulating what it would be like if it was a machine. So as you can see at the bottom there, it's hollowed out, and the idea there is thinking about the conservation of material. So rather than having a solid block, I tried to hollow it out where I could. Of course, we add a circle wherever we can, and having discovered that F does what I used to do, where I would delete faces and then re-solidify, is such a godsend. And then I use Shift R rather than just loosely extruding, just to get a uniform scale. Now this takes me to an issue that I've been having. So you'll see just now that when I try to insert, as you can see, it inserts it individually rather than as a whole thing. I don't understand where that's from, because earlier on in this challenge I wouldn't run into that issue, but lately there must have been some setting that I touched on by mistake, because I've gone through the list of the different selection types and it won't ever select them or insert them all as a whole. The color blue that I'm using here is one that I really enjoy. It actually started when I did this practice day, and that for me, I think that was the first day when I would look at a piece and think, wow, I genuinely like that. So whenever I can, I try to sneak back into that color. Maybe it's just a color preference thing over what the form takes, but for me, I just think that there's a relation between the two, that the color sort of encourages a better flow. So of course I insert a bit. See, it works there. I don't understand. Maybe it's because it's a loop and it's a complete loop. I'll have to try that separately on a small one. Of course the loops run through the circular bits, and that's just some manual deletion that needs to take place. But it's little things like that I won't have to worry so much in the next phase, because I want to make a small library of these little insert pieces using kitops, and then I can just insert them later. So all I need to do is just make little mounds or little insert placeholders where I could just insert them, because then I could go into a lot more detail, because I'd like to think about adding decals and stuff just to fill it out a bit more. In this one I tried something a little bit different, because this piece today actually harkens back to one of the early ones that looked like an engine block, and I wanted to see, my plan for the last 3 was to sort of go back to the beginning and see how things have progressed. This did not work out so well. I think it was just the wonkiness of the forms, but a noble effort nonetheless. Yeah, so I wanted to go back and just to see how things have progressed, how I would sort of approach them now, and I'm not sure if I'm going to keep doing it. I think just letting the things flow out, because that little blockage that I had earlier this week seems to have cleared up a bit, and I'm able to sort of just keep going with it. So this section here, I wanted to add like a ribbed section, but you'll see that it doesn't really work out so well here, because the one mistake I made is that when I go back to undo to remove that circle, I only go back 1 step and I don't go back that extra step to remove it. But then I thought, hey, at this point I might be adding too much detail, or it could be getting too busy. So let's just keep this one simple with a nice soft circular insert. Here's another section for that sawn off look. Okay, and then just to add, I don't know where I was going with this section. I guess I realized that when it's mirrored, the whole interlocking look doesn't really work, so I just opted for something simpler here as well. Because it's quite easy to go overboard if it's an improvised piece. So I just said, you know what, let it be simple for this one. And then probably the worst example of the tape and swoosh. Oh, look at its head. Yeah, no, that was terrible. Words. And there we go, this problem again. If you guys know what this is, please let me know in the comments. If it is just a matter of the nature of its loop cut, there again, it's rampant. This was making me go wild, trying to scale it. Kind of worked, but then I realized that I should not have tapered it a second time, or I guess tapered it at all at this point, just leave it flat. But again, it goes back to the idea of the conservation of material. Rather taper it off towards the end than have a full block. Eventually for this one, I ended up just adding the loop cuts manually, and it seemed to do the trick. So this is when I started to fix the tape and swoosh, and it gave me something a lot better to use. See, that point it works. I need to actually sit and figure it out, because when it works, it works. Oh, this was another bad idea. But again, that would have been just a nice flat surface to add an insert. You can tell I was just going through it with this one. But I guess it's just one of those things that I had been dealing with, because whenever it would come up, I would just, it would never be like a major thing that would stop the whole design, so I would just leave it, and then it would stop for a while. So it was never something I just thought, hey, let's find out once and for all what this is. Because at this point I just manually added the loop cuts and it worked just fine. Also, another point for this section, it would have been, like, the one advantage I see to the Boolean workflow would have been nice just to hollow sections of that undercarriage a bit, just to give it more of a dimension. So I'm really looking forward to the mix method of using both this freeform style mixed with a Boolean workflow, because I just think the result is just going to be so much richer. And in this section here, I thought about hollowing it out like I did for the previous green one, but then I thought, hey, again, too much detail for nothing, so let's just clean it up a bit, and then also give it like a little shadow line, just so it does a little bit without something being taken away. So that for me was just, it made it a little bit more interesting. Again, keeping it simple in this section, just inserting it a bit with some circular bits, and then giving the outside some dimension. Like just a bit of play with shadow and some circles, because I found that I really do, I enjoy the pieces where the integration of the circle. Obviously it's not going to be the same as Aramis's Circleception. That video was wild. And I want to integrate that because you get some really cool forms that come out of it when you overlap a circle on a circle, and that's it.